Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Mostly Sci-Fi. This is Mostly Sci-Fi and I'm your host. So please like and subscribe. And if you can, donate to the Patreon. So today I want to review and talk about a documentary that I saw yesterday, and it was called Moment of Contact. It came out in 2022 and it was directed by James Fox. Now I checked the Rotten Tomatoes score. The critics rated it very high. It was like over 80%. And I think the people who saw it like me, they reviewed it and the average I believe was 89%. So I figured that I would take a look. And the reason why I did that is because at some point I was watching something and they mentioned alien abductions. And they mentioned this one specifically. It was the Roswell of Brazil. And so it was called, in a city called Varginha or something like this in Brazil. Now, the difference between Roswell and this incident that happened in 1996 in Varginha, Brazil, I'm not going to say the city anymore because it's hard to pronounce, but in this specific city in Brazil, is that civilians saw extraterrestrials and they interacted with extraterrestrials, and they have physical contact with extraterrestrials. So you had there were two girls. One was 14 and the others were a little bit older at the time in 1996. And what James Fox did is he traveled to Brazil to interview those women 26 years later that were there, and they saw something, and you can know it's truthful because they got like footage of back in the days of like 1996, and you can see this 14-year-old girl. She is like crying, like real crying, like she's like kind of, you can see the tears coming all down her eyes, and you can know like what she saw was pretty terrifying. So there were three I believe civilian witnesses that saw, more than three, because the mother saw it too. Because what happened was they went back, they were playing in some yard or something, and then in the middle of the day, I'm talking about at like 3:30 in the afternoon. So 3:30 in the afternoon, you had these three girls walking or playing in this yard. And then they see this thing that's cowering around. I won't tell you everything. You got to go look at the interview yourself. But they walked by it. They were terrified, okay? And they noticed that it was terrified. And so they walked by it, and they ran actually by it. And then they got their mother, right? And the mother came back with the truck. And then she said that she saw something in the grass. I'm not going to tell you everything, but I would implore you to go see this. This is, I would think, is the most definitive evidence of extraterrestrials. I mean, it goes way past Roswell, is what I'm saying. And because it's not in America, it don't get a lot of attention. But American government, the U.S. Air Force, wound up getting involved in this thing, because they actually went and then transported the bodies from Brazil to who knows where, maybe in the United States. So this was in 1996. There was also another man and his family who was prominent in Brazil, who stated that he was staring at this UFO for 15 minutes straight. Him and his like daughter or family member, and they didn't want to be seen. Okay, so you had to blur out their face and voice and all that, and it was like because they're afraid of getting embarrassed and stuff like this. He said he was staring at a UFO at this particular. It was huge. He said it was some kind of like, I think it was a saucer shape or something. So basically what happened was that a cigar-shaped UFO crash landed in Brazil. Okay, in a certain city in Brazil. One guy saw it, he was driving and he went chasing after it because he didn't know what it was. And then when he got there, he saw some stuff that was scattered about, and then he picked up some, what do you call it? The aluminum foil or whatever, this kind of foil that they have. So he picked up the foil. He said it was kind of cool to the touch. It was supposed to be hot because, it just crash landed, right? But he held it in his hand, he scrunched it up in his hand, and then he let it go, and it went back to the original shape. Okay? He said it smelled like sulfur and ammonia all over the place. He couldn't get out of his nose. And then the Brazilian military told him to leave. When he didn't want to leave, they raised up a gun. You had 2 more other civilians because they had a blockade and everything. And the 2 other civilians, basically, they didn't see anything. They just saw the UFO. They saw the UFO like kind of... No. They did not see the UFO. Sorry. They were saying... They saw... Oh, yeah. Sorry. They did see a UFO. Okay, so they saw the one that everybody else was seeing. So there was 2 UFOs. One that crashed. And then the one that crashed had occupants inside of it. Okay, I am to assume. So the one had 2 occupants inside of it that were not of earthly origin. And then you had the saucer-shaped one going around the cityscape looking for it, like looking for the debris and actually looking for the 2 occupants. Okay, so you had this thing going around the city looking for the occupants, and then the military was blocking off all of the city. So the people, the girls that saw the extraterrestrial, they were within the blockade. Okay, so you had the military, and then you had people outside, but then you had the inside blockade. So those three girls were inside the blockade. Their housing was inside. The 2 guys that were roaming around, they were trying to leave, they were coming in. So they were trying to come in, and they wouldn't let them in. Okay, so they would not let those people, the ones that saw it, and they said, we got the right to come in, right? And then the Brazilian military took out their weapons, and then, those people just left. They were scared. You had so many witnesses, and it's very detailed in the time. They all say the same thing of what the extraterrestrials look like. You even had a military guy. Okay, he's dead now, all right? But the guy who drove him is alive, and he tells some of his part of the story or whatever, I think. So they're driving the military, his military vehicle, because they're looking for one of the occupants, right? So one of the guys, he finds the occupant, okay? And he physically takes the occupant and puts him in the car, in a Jeep, and then takes him to the local hospital. Takes this thing to the local hospital. So there's photos like of people drawing what happened. Okay, so he took this thing with his bare hands, and he said it was oily and it smelled really disgusting, and it seemed like the being was being affected by the sun, like they couldn't take the type of sun that we had. Okay, and he was just sweating like crazy. So he took it, but then within 2 weeks he died, and from a mysterious infection. Okay, and he said when he had his girlfriend, I think, or his sister, I think his sister, yeah. So his sister said that after he took this thing to the hospital, there was some kind of sticky substance that was on his body that kind of wouldn't come off, and it smelled horrible. And eventually he just got infected to death by foreign, like, objects or something, or not objects, but some foreign materials that was on this extraterrestrial was transferred onto him. And within 2 weeks, he died. So this is just half the stuff that I'm talking about. Like, they have so much stuff that they talk about. And it was called Moment of Contact. Pretty much, I got it for free, but you guys could get it. I'm not going to put the link because the link is kind of illegal. So, I mean, you could find it, though, if you want it. I think this guy, James Fox, this is the best definitive evidence of, is there extraterrestrial life? When you have so many people corroborating the same thing. Okay. It has to be true. Like, it has to be true. They even said they have video evidence of this thing. I'm not going to say anymore because I don't want to ruin it for you. But it's quite terrifying, you know. And if you like Bud Hopkins, you're going to like him. They got John E. Mack. He was there. He was, I think he was one of the interviewers. He went over there to interview some of these subjects. Okay, so he's a Harvard UFOologist. So I would definitely recommend for you to see this. I would give it a 9 out of 10. But it's not just a documentary, right? It's real, man. UFOs are real. Extraterrestrials are real. I was kind of on the fence a little bit before I saw this, you know, like, I know Bud Hopkins, I read his stuff, and I'm kind of like, yeah, I kind of believe her, but you got doubts in your mind. Like, there's always doubts, right? But the Brazilian incident, it erased all my doubt, erased it all. So this is mostly sci-fi. Well, mostly.